Welcome to Friendeavor, the podcast, the weekly podcast where we explore the highs and lows of friendship with your hosts, Danielle and Kayla.
As we journey through life, our friendships often evolve and change, ebb and flow, and sometimes even come to an end. Danielle and I are lifelong advocates for the power of friendship, and we are here to guide all of us through the many challenges and joys that come with building and maintaining strong, meaningful connections with those around us.
Join us each week as we deep dive into the intricacies of friendship, from navigating conflicts to fostering new relationships and everything in between. With insightful interviews, personal anecdotes, and expert advice, Friendeavor is the perfect podcast for anyone looking to strengthen their bonds with the people they love.
So, whether you are on the go, taking care of chores, or just settling in, get ready to explore the world of friendship on Friendeavor, the podcast.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Friendeavor. I'm your host, Danielle.
And I'm Kayla. Hey.
And we are so delighted that you took the time to swing by and hang out with us this week.
So excited. I'm glad I took the time and swung by.
Kayla, give us an update about how's everything going with you?
Yeah. So, it's been a couple months, huh? So, I am a little over 20 weeks along. So I'm halfway through my pregnancy. I'm very ready for baby boy to be here.
So am I.
School's going well.
Killing it. Yeah. It's not just going well, you're killing it.
Oh, well, yeah. I want to be done before baby boy gets here. So
yeah.
that's the ultimate goal.
Yeah.
So we shall see.
And is your due date still the same?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Which is August
16th.
August
They 16th. Like low-key changed it to August 10th and then back to the 16th. And then she said at my anatomy scan, it may change again. So my anatomy scan's later next week. So I don't know.
Well, obviously the Andersons are very excited and
yes.
the Hortons are very excited, and everything is just so exciting right now. 2025 is going to be a fantastic year. We're already a third of the way through it.
Yeah.
Is that not weird to think of that? Like a third of the way, or not a third, a quarter. Crazy. Sorry, a quarter of the way through the year.
Yeah.
You know, January, February, March just zip right by.
I had Christmas reels coming up in my feed. You know how Instagram puts stuff in your feed when you're not even on the popular page? Yeah. You're just on your feed.
Well, I hide it every time it comes up because it drives me nuts. But
it's so annoying. But they've started putting Christmas reels. I'm like, okay.
A little soon.
Yeah.
Give us summer at least.
I know, seriously.
Yeah, no, every time they do suggested posts in my feed, I mute them or hide them or turn them off because I'm like, leave my feed be my feed. I curate what I want to be on my feed.
That's what the For You page is for.
Exactly.
Stop.
Leave my timeline alone.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, that's just a pet peeve of mine that I have.
Yep.
Well, we can dive on it. This is episode 22 of this season. Obviously, we're going to have a few less for this go-around just because of the scheduling and all that stuff. But Kayla came to me with a thought a few days ago. And tell us about that.
Yeah. So I was telling Danielle earlier, like my notes for this are all jumbled. I just like,
mine are every week. So.
You know, like when you're driving and you just have a thought, and then for the next 10 minutes, you just have this script in your head, and then you get to where you need to go. Then later that night, you sit down to write it, and it's like, oh, I forgot.
Yeah, where did that go?
Yes. So I was like, you know what? I'm going to record a podcast on this before I forget it. So I kind of just jumbled down all my thoughts.
Yeah. I started using my voice notes app so that I could just like talk in a stream of consciousness and then go back and listen to myself. And then with this new phone, it's got the button up at the top where you can change like its function. You could have it be the flashlight, you could have it be the whatever. I changed it so it's just the voice memo thing. So all I have to do is hold it down, and it's like one of those old fashioned talking ones.
So it's on your lock screen.
Yeah.
That's cool.
It's a button. Physical button.
Oh.
So you can change the function of that button.
Okay.
I know.
That's really cool.
Yeah. So that not to cut you off, but that has helped my stream of consciousness so that I don't forget stuff, because I have the reminders. Like I have a list of Friendeavor topics that when I come to mind, but this helps me flush it out before I get up in front of everybody and talk about it.
Yes, that's so smart. Yeah, I need to start doing something like that, because I do have thoughts.
Yeah.
But I just forget.
And then all your good ideas come in the middle of the night.
Yes. Yes.
That's why you should have a stack of mem cards next to your bed, people.
Period.
So that you could just jot it down and you'll remember in the morning.
Yes.
Plug.
Yep. So this idea kind of came up because I've thought about it before, but then this situation happened. So funny. So I work at my niece's school, and it was at recess. So we didn't have a long time to like sit down and have a heart-to-heart chat about this. But it was at recess, and she comes up to me, and she was very concerned about
Auntie Kay.
Yes, Auntie Kay, listen. Like something that like an older kid said to her. Like I don't even remember what it was because it was not that big of a deal. I'm not like not to invalidate her, but it was not that big of a deal.
It's kid stuff is
right.
Kid stuff. It seems like the biggest deal in the world, but yeah.
Yes, exactly. That's why I don't even remember what it was. It was an older kid, and I remember just the person and the comment being very irrelevant. Like, I hate to label anyone as irrelevant, but to her, it was not part of her friend group. It was so separate from her inner circle. So, I don't know. I think it was something about her being too little or too short to play this game or something. I don't know. So, she was very concerned about it, though. And I was like, man, girl, like, you're going to spend your whole recess thinking about this when this person is nothing to you. Mm-hmm. Not nothing, okay? But, like, kind of irrelevant to you.
Yeah, we understand.
Yes.
There are people,
not
it's
a friend.
Part of, like, the friendship pyramid. Like, something that's an acquaintance would say would not matter to you as much as what a best friend would say to you.
Correct. And that's what we're going to get into. So, exactly. So, I sat her down, and I was like, okay, listen, I'm going to tell you something. It's going to be so revolutionary. You are gonna remember it I felt like Trump. I was like, listen, I'm gonna tell you something, and it's such a big deal. You have to remember this like your whole entire life, okay?
There's nothing more tremendous than what I'm about to tell you right now. It's beautiful. It's special. It's fantastic.
It is going to change your life. So I told her that. I was like, okay, here's what I'm gonna tell you. I said, nobody can make you feel inferior without your consent. And that is by Eleanor Roosevelt. It's a quote by Eleanor Roosevelt. So, of course, she's a second grader, so she didn't understand it. She's like, what does that mean?
You're like, this is a revelation. You should understand what this means.
And so, yes. Oh, I was expecting her not to understand it, but I needed to do the quote. Yeah. And so, for dramatic effect. Yeah. So, I was like, okay. I was like, inferior means being put down or dumb or less than, okay? And she knows what all those mean. Mm-hmm. I was like, and consent means permission or you're allowing. So nobody can make you feel dumb without your permission, right? That's not like you're giving someone permission to speak, but you are giving them permission when they do speak because they're going to speak on their own accord.
Right.
But you then have to give them permission to give them the power to hurt you.
Yeah.
And so I was trying to explain to her that I'm not trying to invalidate your feelings, but sometimes you have to think about, okay, who said this? What was said? Mm-hmm. And am I going to allow that to hurt me? Yeah. Like,
it's the power of attention.
Yes.
It's whatever you dwell on, you're empowering it, right? You're whenever you give it attention, if you keep replaying it, if there's like an insult or a frustration, you're giving it more weight than it deserves.
Right.
So I think you did a fantastic job telling her, like, you can't let this ruin your one free time of the day.
Yes.
Right. It's too much. It's so...
Girl, you only get so much recess.
You only get so much recess. You can't ruin it by letting that person who's not in your circle, who's close to you, ruin your day.
Right. And, we're going to get into this later too, but I told her sometimes it's okay to let someone hurt you. Like if they are, and I just kind of explained to her like this, like I have a lot of 7-year-olds in my life. Okay. But you are a very special 7-year-old to me because this is my niece. I'm like, so if a 7-year-old came up to me and said something rude or hurtful, I may not care that much. But if you said something to me that was rude or hurtful, I would be hurt because I love you and I care about you. I care about what you think about me. I just care deeply for you. So, and you're very close to me. So I would care if you said something hurtful to me. But if it was another 7-year-old that, like, I might love them, but I don't really care what they think about me, I wouldn't allow it to hurt me.
Yeah. The weight of words, it's different in your social circle.
Right.
It's, the closer someone is to you, the more their words should matter. And I feel like as kids, it's just... anyone who's got a mouth can say anything, and therefore I have to listen to them.
Yeah.
But not everyone should have earned a a place of influence and should be able to affect you.
Exactly.
And definitely not when it comes to your emotional state. Like,
right.
That is something that I think that probably particularly women battle with more and at every stage of life. Obviously if you get older, the more mature you are, you deal with it less, but even it can creep up on you from time to time. Something comes out of left field, an insult or something, and you're like, where did that come from? What part of me is making you feel that way? And it can be something that can drag you down, but the maturity of understanding this concept that you're teaching us right now is huge, and I think it's great that you're introducing this to her at 7.
Yeah. I just think it's so important. And I mean, I didn't know this exact quote when I was little, but my mom would use little tactics like that. And I actually have that in my notes for later. But yeah, so I sat her down and I just kind of posed a couple questions to her. I forget what the situation was now, but if it was about her being short or too little, I just asked her, do you think you're short? No. Oh, well, do you think you're too little to play this game? No. I'm like, okay. Well, the fact that some older kid told you that you were shouldn't change the fact that you don't think you
feel
are.
That way. Yeah.
Right. It's like, you cannot give that boy permission to change how you see yourself.
Yeah.
Like, and she was getting it. So, that conversation kind of ended there. And then it caused me to think a lot about it later that day. I'm like, oh my word, like, adults struggle with this.
Yeah.
On a much broader scale.
Yeah.
And I kind of expanded this concept later on in this episode. I kind of expanded it to mean more than just making you feel inferior, to kind of appeal to more adults. But the next point is that some constructive criticism is good. So you can't be too set in your own ways or be prideful. We just did an Instagram post on this. Like, you can't be a person who will not receive feedback, and so people are scared to give them feedback.
Yeah.
Because you're going to end up on an island by yourself making some really poor choices because everyone was too scared to give you direction, right? So some constructive criticism is good. You have to learn who to receive it from and what's valid.
Yeah, and I think that there's definitely a balance. And again, this comes with maturity, and for people who listen to Friendeavor the podcast, they'll learn it before everyone else. You're hearing it here first, folks. You've never learned this before. We're teaching it to you. This concept I'm about to say, but the balance between sensitivity and growth. Mm-hmm. So there's a difference between just dismissing criticism and just saying like, oh, well, water off a duck's back, I don't care. Versus looking at what it is and saying, is there a little bit of truth there? Is there something I can work on? Is there something I can grow from? You don't even have to credit that person.
Yeah.
You don't have to credit that person for hurting you or anything like that, but helping you grow. But I think an act of maturity is to look at something like that, something that you might be sensitive about, and see if there's some valuable feedback in there somewhere. It's part of your emotional investment in yourself. Yeah. And knowing what to filter and what to reflect on is part of this, the process of growing up and the process of learning about yourself, seeing what you are confident in. Like, no, that is nonsense. I know I'm not like that, so I could just dismiss that criticism, versus internalizing it, not to dwell on it, not to be sensitive about it, but to grow from it.
Correct. Exactly. And I think the difference between those two scenarios you just described is pride. There's a difference between pride and confidence.
Yeah.
So I think the main thing is pride says I am sufficient enough by myself. And confidence says I'm sufficient enough with God.
Yeah.
So pride is kind of like this dependence and kind of like rejection of any outside input. And then confidence is not necessarily a trust in yourself, but it's a trust in who God created you to be.
Yeah.
So an example of that would be, I'm still thinking in terms of my second grade niece. So an example of that might be kids at public school that are like really inquisitive and they ask you a lot of questions about your hair and your skirts. I know I experienced that a lot. I didn't really experience bullying. Like, I know people say they do, and that was just never part of my experience. I think kids were really inquisitive and they asked a lot of questions, and they might have been like, well, why every day? You know, but that's just kids being kids. So yeah, never experienced a lot of bullying on that. But I think the difference between pride and confidence is that, yeah, well, I'm confident that this is the right thing to do because I have scripture to back it up, and this is what God wants me to do. And so, you know, I'm confident in that. Pride might be, well, you know, you're going to you're going to hell and I'm going to heaven because I've got a skirt and you don't.
Oh, yeah, you are correct.
So
you are correct.
There's that. Like, so you can be, you know, confident in yourself because of the confidence God gives you.
Yeah.
But pride is a full reliance on yourself.
I agree. And it's going back to the bullying thing. So I spent most of my education in Michigan, and the kids there are inquisitive. Yeah, but they're also like, there's nothing outside of their norm, really. There's not a lot of diversity. There's not a lot of different religions or anything like that. So where kids here have been like, why? They're like, why? I don't ever want to go to your church if that's what you, because like you're the only example of it. And they're like, well, I don't want to go to your religion if that's what I have to do, right? So you don't have like students with, you know, hijabs or any of the kind of stuff there. So just to show that there's just differences in the world. So when you're the only one that's wearing a skirt in gym class, then it's like, ew, why do you have to do that? It's just, even just a class of all girls. Why do you have to, like, you know, that's irritating. Well, in high school, we were in PE and I was wearing my skirt, and it was a co-ed gym class, and this kid who I'd gone to school with since 5th grade decides that in high school it's time to get some answers about this, comes out in the gym, and in front of everyone, the gym teacher was not out there yet, and he's like, I can't believe you wear a skirt in gym. Why do you do that? You can't even move in that thing. And this girl goes, leave her alone. Aww. She was like a volleyball player. Leave her alone. And I was like, what's it to you? You know, I'm not trying to back down from him, but I'm also not gonna like just cause a scene. Yeah. It was like, I'm like, what is it to you? He's like, well, you just like look really dumb or whatever. And this girl hauls off and punches him right in the face.
Was the girl you? My goodness.
The girl was not me. The girl was not me. It was
I'm surprised.
The captain of the volleyball team. I remember her name, Alexis Blake. She punched him, and I was like, okay, girl. Thanks, Alexis Blake.
Period.
I have never forgotten that. And you know what? He never asked me about it again. And I was like, dude, you waited from 5th grade to 9th grade to bring it up and to like make a fool out of me. You're the one with your hand over your face, like just got punched by a girl in gym. So who's the idiot now? But but yeah, all so that funny. To say, as far as that example, confidence versus pride and all that stuff. Yeah, there was times that I wish that I just looked like everyone else who does it in middle school. Yeah. And I was more mad that we just had to change for gym anyways. I wish we could just all wear what we wore, because then there wouldn't be like, oh, then she's got another skirt just for gym. Like, that's weird. That's true. So there was that whole factor, but I'm also like, this is who I am, and it has nothing to do with you. And that's the point, is that whatever my image of myself is has nothing to do with that guy. Yeah. Right. It had nothing to do with Alexis. She stepped in and took care of it for me. But I wasn't going to go home and cry about him making fun of me. I was like, what an idiot, you know? Right. Right. There's nothing that I need to look in on myself and say, do I need to be doing something different? Because I didn't care about that clown. Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. That's actually a really good segue into the next story I'm going to tell. So I was already kind of thinking about this topic, and then this situation happened, and I was like, this can go in the pod. So I was walking with a friend the other day, just taking a walk, and we were walking down opposite sides of the street from this guy who we already could tell he was talking to himself, so it was pretty clear that he was just, you know, a few screws short. No. He's talking to himself, and he's wobbling or whatever, and he yells across the street to me. He goes, I like your dress. And I was like, oh, well, thank you. You know, like,
like,
Kim Horton, ladies and gentlemen.
I'm not like, whatever. I'm like, okay, thank you. Keep walking, and he goes, but your shoes don't match. I just kind of laughed. I was like, oh.
I would have been on the ground.
He's like, but your shoes don't match. And I'm like, okay, that's
fashionista.
I know.
You were wobbling down the street.
I know. I'm like, okay, well, you're talking to yourself. Your shoes don't match. So I'm like, oh, okay. So I keep walking with the person that I'm walking with, and I just keep talking to them because it's a complete stranger. I thought it was funny, but I didn't even give it any more thought because I thought it was funny.
I would have been thinking about that all day.
So it was funny. I think about it now because I think about the funny part. But the person I was walking with,
we'll be right back, folks.
So I went back to talking about whatever we were talking about before. And like a couple minutes later, after this guy is long gone, the person I was walking with goes, I cannot believe he just insulted you like that.
You just looked like Carissa when you said that.
Well, you have called me Kim and Carissa in this podcast.
You sounded like Kim and then you looked like Carissa.
And so, like, this person said that, and I was like, okay, wait, pause. I was like, to be insulted means that I was insulted.
Yeah.
Like, and that's not true. Like, I wasn't insulted by that. That was a complete stranger who was completely, yeah. Nothing about that insulted me. It didn't get to me. It didn't annoy me. I thought it was funny.
Yeah.
Okay. And the person I was with was like, well, was it an insult? Is your shoes don't match your outfit? Is that an insult? I'm like, sure, that statement is an insult, but that doesn't change. But I am not insulted.
I'm not internalizing that.
Right. It's like, you know how people say shots fired.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
But shots can be fired without you being shot.
Yeah.
Okay. If someone threw a knife at me, yes, it was a knife. But if I had like this stainless steel shield, then I wasn't cut.
Yeah.
So you can choose whether or not to be cut by the supposed knives people are throwing
verbal
at
knives
you.
about your shoes.
Right. And so that was like, but that's an adult example. Now we're not talking about my second grade niece. We're talking about my adult friend I was walking with.
Yeah.
So I'm like, no, I wasn't insulted. And like, you don't need to be either.
Yeah.
On my behalf. Like,
that makes me think of, how do I put this? Like, emotional economy. Like, there's only so much to go around, right? There's only so much that you need to give your attention to and so much you need to give your time to. And
giving your brain space.
Yeah, like, give it, so you wouldn't want, and I love the phrase rent-free. I think, like, it's become more popular these days, but it's been around for a long time. Like, so protecting your mental real estate, if you will, you wouldn't just let anyone move into your house, just like, you know.
Without paying rent.
Hey, I'm here. I'm gonna come in, and you're like, oh, okay, well, why would you let them take up space in your mind?
Nope.
Like, recognizing when someone is living, you know, quote unquote, rent free in your head can help you. If once you realize that and you can work through it, then you're reclaiming your own peace. And so for your friend who was like up in arms about it, they seem to be more offended than you were about your outfit. So it's like, buddy, sissy, whoever you may be, if I'm not gonna let it affect me, why on earth should you let it affect you? now we're so far removed from the original offense.
I know.
We're 2 times removed because now you're offended.
I know. Oh. It was so much. I was like, we were almost to our destination where we were walking, and we were still talking about it. I was like, I cannot believe we're talking about this. Like, that was a funny thing, but I am, yeah.
You were over it, or you would have been.
Yes.
Oh, that's something.
Yeah. So yes, people can throw knives and you do not need to be cut. One example I wrote down here is my mom used to tell us, before that Eleanor Roosevelt quote was popular, she would tell us, well, if someone told you, I hate your blue hair, do you have blue hair? I'm like, no. Okay, well, if you don't have blue hair, then that doesn't hurt you, right?
Yeah.
If I tell you I hate your blue hair, you don't have blue hair, well, then you're being silly,
Yeah.
you know? And it's not, it's not an exact parallel, but it's pretty similar. Like I was confident in my outfit that day. I thought my outfit was cute and it was a stranger. So like,
A crazy stranger at that.
Yes. So him telling me my shoes didn't match, like I didn't accept it as fact. So you don't accept the fact that you have blue hair if you don't have blue hair. So you don't accept whatever someone says about you.
Not match.
Yes, if that's not true. If it's not true.
It's like the oldest saying in the world, like the oldest adage, sticks and stones.
Yeah.
Break my bones, but words will never hurt me.
Yeah.
Society is is just corrupting that so much.
Yeah.
To like hate speech and all that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
There are words that will hurt you, but it depends on who they come from.
Yes.
But the average person, like, you should not be hurt by their words. Like sticks and stones, people. Sticks and stones.
Yes. And most of what this podcast is going to cover is, situations in which you should not let things get to you. But there is a short little segment I dedicated to like when you should let things get to you and when it's okay.
Yeah.
So I took this concept and I kind of broadened it. So to not only give someone your consent to make you feel inferior or less than, but also frustrated, annoyed, or overwhelmed, taking up brain space, like you said, coming into your house, like just consenting to that. Okay. Giving someone the power to frustrate or annoy you. So, and to go back to what I said before, there are situations where that's not necessarily right or wrong, giving someone the power. Like, you have the choice to give them the power. So, like, if you deem them worthy of having that power, then, okay, by all means, give them the power to hurt you.
Yeah.
And I think that comes with loving people, is giving them the power to hurt you.
Yeah.
Yeah. Loved ones, people you care deeply about. It's like if someone was ghosting my texts and they don't rank very high in my friendship pyramid, they're more like an acquaintance, I'd just be like, all right, well, not texting them anymore. Like, that's dumb. But if Danielle was ghosting my texts for, multiple, like if I sent her 4 texts throughout several days and she ghosted all of them, I'd be like, girl, like, what? Hello? Are we good? And I would be concerned. So it's, taking it situation by situation. I was with a group of people the other day. One of them found out something that someone else had said about them, and they were getting really worked up about it. But they weren't getting worked up in the sense that, like, they were expressing hurt or offense. They just kept saying over and over how little they cared about that person's opinion about them, okay? Little in quotation marks, okay? So they just kept saying it, and we were, like, in a group, and it was just, like, kind of funny, because I'm like, okay, well, you do care, okay?
False indifference. I actually looked that up before we started
False indifference.
False indifference.
Okay.
So I'm just going to jump in really quickly. So many people claim that they don't care. Like you said, they just don't care. And it's just like, oh, it doesn't matter to me. Like, oh, I can't believe it. Like, why do they even think of me? That kind of thing. Yeah. But in reality, they really do care deeply. Yeah. And the harder that they try to prove that they don't care, the more obvious it becomes that they do. And it's like, that's actually embarrassing for you.
Yes. Yes.
Honesty about emotions is what's going to actually lead to a resolution.
Exactly. And that's what this whole story is about, actually. You just kind of nailed it. So by the 3rd time that this person said something along the lines of not caring, they actually said, I cannot express to you how microscopically I care about what that person has to say. I just finally looked at my other friend and we were like, okay, we gotta tell them. Like, we gotta tell them.
Yeah.
And so we just kind of broke the news to them. We were like, okay, so it's really clear and obvious that you do care.
Do care.
So, well, let's talk about why you care. And it's okay that you care. I mean,
At least they weren't internalizing it. They were
yes.
externalizing it.
Yes, exactly. Exactly. So we were like, okay, you don't need to keep saying you don't care because you do. And let's just talk about why. It's fine. And so when we did have that conversation with them, we found out that there was a little bit of insecurity and pride attached to it. Insecurity and pride go hand in hand. They might sound like polar opposites, but they actually go hand in hand because
Masking.
they're like, yes, they are masks. And they are not synonymous, but they are a cycle, so they contribute to one another.
Yeah.
If that makes sense. Pride contributes to more insecurity. Insecurity contributes to more pride. So that's kind of what was going on with this situation. And we were able to discover that. But it was just very funny how much they cared. So then let's talk about an opposite situation, okay? Where something is bothering you a lot when it shouldn't. So that last situation was it was clearly bothering you, and it's okay that it was bothering you, but you were trying to convince others and yourself that it wasn't. This is when something does bother you and you are expressing how much it's bothering you, but it shouldn't bother you that much, okay? So this is actually a personal story that I've had to work through myself. So I won't get into too much detail, but I would routinely get annoyed or overwhelmed about this person's behavior in a particular setting.
That's about as vague as it can get. This person in a particular setting.
Yes.
So anybody in the world, anywhere in the world.
But this setting was repeated. It was a routine setting.
Okay.
And so this person had a routine behavior in this routine setting. And their actions weren't even targeted at me. They didn't make me feel inferior. They just annoyed me so much. And I'd spend so much brain space thinking about how ridiculous they were and just having the same conversations with my husband over and over, like, well, I can't believe it. Okay. And it was, eventually I just had to sit down with myself and be like, why? Like, I am giving this person power to take up space in my brain after I have left the event or the setting in which I was.
The place of the thing.
The place of the happening.
The repeated place that it was.
Yes. Like, after it's done, gone, over with, okay? Like, I'm still talking about it, and I'm still like, oh, well. And it doesn't even directly involve me. So I just had to sit down with myself and be like, okay, this person is a little bit ridiculous, for one.
I love that.
They have a reputation for being ridiculous. And so I just need to start walking into this routine situation expecting that of them. Mm-hmm. And I just had to learn to kind of laugh it off. Not laugh in their face, but just kind of be like, here's like that person being that person again.
Pre-worked through it.
Yes.
Instead of taking it home with you, you came and you said, okay, this is how I'm going to react.
Yes.
I know this is going to happen, but I'm also protecting my, if we want to use the term from before, emotional economy, because they're not withdrawing as much of my emotion as they normally do. It's cutting them off.
Right. Exactly.
And they probably don't even know that they're doing that.
No.
It's not intentional. But it's just like, it just makes you want to just lose your mind, because people's personality, you're not gonna be friends with everybody. No. You're not going to. What's really bad is when that person thinks that they're your friend. And they're not. They're not.
I probably categorize my friendship pyramids differently than you. So, like, friends in my...
I think you're just friends with everybody.
Friends in my pyramid you would categorize it as acquaintances. So...
Ruby, get off of this microphone. We're going to be having words about that. I'm just kidding. But no, I understand what you're saying. But you also come from a slightly different worldview from me.
Yeah.
You know, and I developed the pyramid based off of the fact of, like, there are just people that you are not as close to. And so maybe the acquaintance is not the best word for it, but that's really the only way to describe it, as being someone that you know but you're not close to. And so the whole idea of ways you move in between the pyramid is time spent and desire to spend time with that person. So you spend time, it was a repeated situation.
Yeah.
I don't know how frequently, but you spend time with this person, but you don't desire to spend time with this person. So therefore, he or she would be significantly lower, and the lowest you can get while still being on the pyramid is an acquaintance.
Yes. Right. Well,
yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense. When you put it in those terms, that makes sense. So
it's almost as if I've given this some thought or something.
Yeah. Yeah. So, yeah, I had to train myself using, tools from professional people, like my sister, who's a therapist, so not necessarily training myself, but I had to work with myself through this and just kind of teach myself to laugh it off. Just like, oh, there goes that person being that person. And I actually talked to my sister about this, and she was like, yeah, I have to do that in so many situations. And it's, you don't want to get in the habit of that, because maybe there are some situations where you shouldn't laugh it off. But if you have all the right tools, then you can properly assess when to do it. So I had to learn to just kind of laugh it off. So I have 2 pieces of advice to share with someone who struggles to laugh things off. Okay. So the first piece of advice, and it's kind of ironic based on other things I've said on this podcast, so I'm going to qualify it. Okay. So walk into situations with expectations about the way someone's going to behave. That's funny because I'm pretty sure I've said on this podcast before, like, oh, well, give someone the benefit of the doubt and don't have foregone conclusions.
That's still true, yes. But for this context, I totally see where you're coming from.
For this context, yes. If you have an issue with letting someone get to you, and someone's offense or behavior, offender, yes, is repeated, then walk into whatever situation that they typically misbehave in. Walk into there expecting them to misbehave. Okay? It's like I sub in a 3rd and 4th grade class like once or twice a month. And if I walked into that classroom expecting every student to behave all day, I would get so frustrated. Yeah. Because that's not going to happen. But if I walk in there expecting them to be wild, expecting them to not follow directions, then I'm more prepared, and 2, I'm not so just taken aback anytime someone would misbehave. Yeah. Like, oh, well, there we go. They're being a 3rd and 4th grader. Or then fast forward to, or rewind to that other situation I was talking about. Oh, okay, here we go. There goes that person being that person. Okay. So, yeah. Walk into situations with expectations about someone's behavior.
Can I jump in with my own experience right here?
Yes.
For this? So with that, you are not going to approve of this.
Oh, no.
But sometimes when people are repeat offenders, it doesn't matter if it's offended, like, actually, like, offensive or just, like, repeated behavior. And this could just be an Anderson thing. I don't know. But I'll sometimes play a game with myself and see if I can set them up to do that behavior faster than they normally do.
You were right. I do not approve.
not just for bad stuff, but for. Okay.
I know what story you're about to tell.
No, this is a new one.
Okay.
This is a new one. So I have one of my students. When I talk to his parent, and I will keep it as vague as that because I think some of my coworkers may have found. Friendeavor, yeah. Well, I know that they know about it because I did All About Me, and
oh yeah.
But I didn't know if they were actually gonna go find it. So, anyways, I have one parent. They are very proud of their accomplishments, and you might think, oh, they're proud of their students' accomplishments. No, they're proud of their own accomplishments. Okay. I have talked to this parent probably 4 times in the last 2 months. And all 4 times, they have told me the exact same fun fact about themselves. I have not asked for it, but it's about one of their accomplishments. And they always find a way to work it into the conversation. Oh. Well, by the second time, I was like, oh, okay, this is just something that they're very proud about. 3rd time, did it again. 4th time.
You set them up.
It was a parent-teacher conference. I set my phone up, took a video.
Stop.
And baited them into saying it again.
Danielle! Oh,
they had no idea. They had no idea. They do not know that they've told me that 4 times. They don't know. They genuinely, I cannot. And again, that is an Anderson thing. My dad does the same thing. But as far as when it comes to behaviors, you can, not just bad behaviors, but like that kind of like repeated stuff. It's part of kind of taking back the power of the situation, right? Mm-hmm. Not letting it get to you, but you getting it to it. So that is why I'm plugging that in, is that you can just empower your own self instead of letting other people drain from you.
You can empower your own self.
No.
Not to hurt them right back.
It didn't hurt
No,
them.
it didn't. No.
They were thrilled that I was taking interest in what they had to say. I just knew it was going to happen, but I did it for my own amusement, and I took a video to show my dad and say, see, I can do it too.
That's oh yeah, because your dad probably has the same parent.
Yeah.
Oh, that's hilarious.
Oh yeah, the other story that you were thinking of, it's a little too fresh to be saying on the podcast, but that is the exact situation. I did that purely for my own amusement.
Oh, I know.
And for the amusement of the people I told the story to. But yeah, so bad. And it worked. This is a different story.
They walked right into that one.
Fantastic. If you ever find me on the street, first of all, tell me that my shoes match my dress. And then second of all, ask me what the story is. And outside of the podcast, I will tell you because I am very proud of that other story. Anyways, Kayla, what is your second piece of advice that you have for us?
Oh, man. Okay. So the first piece of advice, which Danielle took to a whole nother level, is walking into situations expecting behavior from someone, which you have to get that down before you can go into this other piece of advice, which is then don't take things so personally. Mm-hmm. And I know that's okay. Well, yeah, easier said than done. But you have to, that's why we've built the foundation with the first step, is walk into situations expecting someone's behavior, because if you do that, then you won't take things so personally. So just to like put this into very silly, practical terms, if you were standing in a line of people, a line of 200 people, and one person was assigned to go through each person in the line and tell them whether they're pretty or ugly, and they had done 200 people before you and told them all that they're ugly, when they get to you, if they tell you you're ugly, it's not a big shock. It's not something you have to take personally because they just told the 200 people before you that they are ugly.
Did you come up with that example?
Yes.
That is such a good example, Kayla.
Yes. I was just thinking, how can I make this sound so silly but so like that's how to communicate it.
But that first person in the line took that really personally until it got to the end.
That's true.
So
that's true.
You might be the first person that has experienced that, but when you see that repeated behavior when it comes out down the line, then that can help heal the hurt that you had the first time.
That's true. I didn't think about that.
When you were the first person who got told you were ugly.
There you go. So yeah, you can see that from both ends. If you're the 200th person, then you don't need to be like, oh, what are they going to tell me? And then when they tell you you're ugly, you're like, oh, no, I'm just ugly. What? They just told 200 people before they were ugly, okay? Also, if you were the first person and you observe that pattern later, then yeah, that will help heal the hurt from being the first person to be told you're ugly. Okay? So yeah, there's the 2 pieces of advice. Expect someone's behavior if you've had enough time to kind of observe that pattern. And then just don't take things so personally. And learn to laugh things off. Yeah. If you really think that you are, I hate to use the word superior because that's not what I'm trying to say. But if you really think that your way is better or that you're
if you're
doing
just confident
it better.
In yourself, if you just know what you are, if you knew that your shoes matched your dress, it doesn't matter.
Right, exactly. So if you're really confident in what you're doing, then you can learn to laugh things off when other people are being ridiculous. If you let it get to you, then either you haven't practiced this enough or you don't think that person's ridiculous and you are threatened by them.
Yeah.
And we can, oh man, I did not write about that, but we can get into that. Mm-hmm. So either you have not practiced this enough or you are threatened by the person and you're trying to convince yourself and other people that you're not threatened by them and you care so little.
Yeah, that false indifference. Mm-hmm. Well, I think this is a very healthy conversation to have because, again, I said particular women, but it affects everybody that you can become hurt by other people. If this has ever happened to you and you have a tip or a trick of overcoming, and if it's something that you are willing to share, I'm sure that someone would love to learn from you just as like they learn from us. So you can write into us at friendeavorpodcast@gmail.com. Mm-hmm. At that same email address, if you have a prayer request. I know last week I asked for prayer for my jaw. It has actually gotten better the last couple of days. So I'm not surprised that, God can heal. Yes. But I am I'm very grateful for all the prayers that you guys have prayed. And if you have something you'd like to request prayer for, you can definitely reach out. Kayla, we're so glad that you're back this week.
Yes.
It's just not the same without you. So I'm so glad that we're here.
I know. I've enjoyed it.
That is all for this week. Reach out, email, DM us, comments, thoughts, questions, concerns, and we'll see you next time.
See you next time.
Thank you so much for listening to this week's episode of Friendeavor the podcast. Don't forget to subscribe wherever you get your podcasts. And if you enjoyed today's content, leave a review and share with a friend. You can find the show notes on our website, www.friendeavor.net, and in the description of this episode.
Friendship is a journey. It's an endeavor. We'll see you next time on Friendeavor.